Welcome to Coffee with Mom and Dad. Todd, she's mom. And as you can see, we're kind of in a new studio here. And this is our first week at Rock Studio audience.
Oh, yes.
But praise God, it's a studio audience.
They are here.
And, we've had all sorts of technical difficulties. Devil's been working against us. But God is good.
Chicken is hard.
And today we're going to be talking about a subject that's my heart, something I think that everybody needs to understand, especially those who live in a Christian home and abounding in the work of the Lord. It's something I have been, but I was bored. And it's usually when people get bored that they find themselves in trouble. And so I want to talk about this subject, work of the Lord. The Bible tells us very clearly in 15, the Bible says, my dearly beloved, be steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. And
Constantly pulling things and this is distracting me from so easy to be just by what we think is important. It's, I saw a chart one time. It was four things that were urgent and important. And there are things in life that are urgent. There are things like they're urgent, but they're not important. That are important. Bottom that had urgent but important, and non urgent, non-important. And everything in life falls into those categories. That the things that are urgent. Let's say things that are urgent and not important are just like so like that. Set aside. Things that are urgent and important is like when your kid falls down, breaks their leg. Can't wait on that. That has to be dealt with.
Right.
It used to be that you had to answer it right then, or an answer machine, something little. And you had to deal with it right then. And things that are not urgent, but are important, so you push to the side for time with your kids. Now my kids are all grown up, and I was just, you always think you're going to have, and you don't.
Yeah.
And and same with the things of God, and those are the.
Yeah.
Maybe you could explain the big rocks, little rocks, and all that
Well,
stuff.
yeah,
That was really good.
The idea is, I had a pastor show me one. He had this big jar, and he had all these rocks, and then he had sand and all that kind of stuff. And what he did, he took the sand and he tried to put it in the jar. He put the sand in the jar, and it filled yay high. Then he went to putting the rocks in, and it filled high. Then he started taking these big rocks in. The jar was overflowed, and there was no way that he could fill up the jar with the rocks. Wow. Took the big rocks out, the little rocks out, the sand out. And what he did was he turned around and he put the big rocks in first, then he put the gravel in, and he put the sand in.
And then put water in.
When he was done, it was full. There was nothing left.
They all fit.
When he put the big priorities in first, explained it. When you make the first and take care of your priorities first, then everything else just kind of seems to.
Those things
Things that are of God. Sorry, my nose is itching right now, but the things that are of God, that is something that we can just put off. Okay, the things of God, things that are urgent. We don't look at them that way in America.
Well, they're important, but because when they're not right in the forefront, they're not urgent.
Americans look at the things of God as if okay, here's my work, here's my family, right? Here's my or my hunting trips, okay, or what did it
Sports games.
your Friday night party night. And then here's church. And the reality is that we always tend to, if something has to go by the wayside, it tends to be Bible reading, soul winning, and rather than your Friday night party night with the guys or something to that effect. And that's a big mistake. Got to learn to prioritize our time, learn things of God with our families.
Yes.
You know, when my used to take them out, we used to knock on doors, we'd go out street preaching together, all sorts of stuff for the Lord, because it's important that people understand that there was an urgent work. You know, and it's an important
reasons why you do them together, because there are a lot of children who have grown up in Christian homes that have become bitter because they have felt like they have had to fight with God for time with their parents. And when you take them with you, you take not only time with your children, but you're teaching them something they're not going to learn.
You know, the other day I was reading Secret Power by D.L. Moody, and if you've ever read that, I'll be honest with you, I don't agree with the that he writes in the book, and D.L. Moody's not God. I think he was filled with, but he says in the book, he says that he wishes that he had waited. He was filled with the Spirit of God before he went out, and he did. But in the book, he testifies to several people, told them that they were either worn out or they needed help, and he told them that they needed to be filled. And then with the Spirit of God and had the strength to continue working. I was reading the book and I was getting real discouraged because I want to be filled with the Spirit of God every day. And I was like, Lord, I haven't got a warm, mushy feeling all the time. I haven't got this in my chest, and Lord, you know, and I got real discouraged. The Lord woke me up with the verse. One day I was sleeping, and the Lord just kind of woke me. He just said, "Be ye steadfast, always abounding in the work of the Lord." Thinking about every testimony that D.L. Moody gave, and even old D.L. Moody, that he was going to have to quit because of heart problems. He was having heart problems. Have his assistant pastor or whatever start preaching the gospel, and D.L. Moody looked at the old man and he says, you sir need to be filled with the Spirit of God. He went on his way and began preaching more and doing his thing, and he ran into the older man later within the year, and he talked to the older man, and the older man told D.L. Moody, he said, I'm now preaching 8 times a week. I considered what you said. I got filled with the Spirit of God, and then I went out and I began preaching. And, can I tell you, sometimes we think that it's best to just wait on God when it's necessary. But can I tell you, the Bible shows us in in Isaiah 4 about waiting on God. It says, you know, that if we wait on the Lord, we'll mount up with wings as eagles. Be weary, we'll walk and not be faint, something to that degree. But also shows in the verses before that, young men shall, it says right here, it says right here, hast thou not known, hast thou not heard, that the everlasting God, the Lord of the earth, fainteth not, neither is weary. There's no searching of his understanding. He giveth power, and to them that have no might he increases strength. Shall faint, and be weary, men shall utterly fall. Now I want you to hear this. Something. Verse 29. It says in Isaiah, he giveth power to the And to them that have no might, he increases strength. Faint before he gives you power. You've got to be without might before he gives you strength. So many people are waiting for strength without first. Okay. Sometimes we go to God and we begin begging for the power and strength of God and the might of God of our own strength, full of our own power. And I was preaching this the other night. You've got to get to the end of your rope before you need God. It's so deceitful that you think you can take care of it. You think that somehow you have the power to solve all your problems. And what you need to do is get to that place where you understand that you don't have it. But before you can get to that place where you understand that, you need to you've tried it and failed.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. Tries it and fails. Then God steps in and says, son, I'm going to lift you up. Son, I'm going to give you strength and power. It's unmovable, always abounding in. It's when we get to that place where we are. It's when you get to the place where you're praying to God, and the Bible says, casting all your cares upon him, for he careth for you. It's when you get to that place where you're no longer, but you're crying to God. You're saying, Lord, I need you. I got all these things going on in my life. I need you. Get to that place, God will lift you up. God will become your comforter. But if you're casting all your care, gossiping and carrying on for God's help at the same time, and God says, why should I come along and cut all these other comforters? Man alive, they tore him up.
What I was going to say is when you're talking to them about your, they're not thinking about it, and they may be commiserating with you, but later they will be going, man, that person just doesn't know what they're doing, and there's must something wrong.
Oh yeah,
and yeah, exactly.
Can I tell you something?
Like that, they will tear you apart. People.
Only God knows. Only God knows your emotions.
Only God will react the right way.
Look at this other verse. Verse 31. But they that wait. I used to think that this was sitting there and waiting for God to do something.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to be lazy and wait for God. But then I got a job waiting tables on people. And look at this. It doesn't say waiting for God. I mean, a best word might, but it says, but they that wait upon the Lord. When you wait upon, you are actually serving them. Man is serving God, and his desire is to do for God. Whether he's the janitor cleaning toilets, is a window washer, is just whatever he's doing. If he's giving it his all for the glory of God, yes, and he finds himself weak, to decide that he is going to do it for the glory of God, willing to give him power. God is willing to give him strength. God is willing to do a mighty work in his life.
My mother taught me that.
But you must give it your all, for the says, do as unto the Lord. What would you do to your place of work? Boss. I people sitting down, doing their thing until the boss walks in. Then they're up and about work. Oh, I got to do my thing. And listen. If you made a covenant with your feet to stay on your feet, working all the time as if God was watching you, would completely change. Lord, I said, Lord, I got this thing backwards. I said, Lord, I'm over here praying for something, and yet I haven't even worn out this. Up and I started talking to God. I spent a couple hours speaking to the Lord, and well, later that week we had to go out preaching, and we didn't get to. It's a privilege. So we went to gospel, and I go out and I preach the gospel in the open air. I love it, man. There's no better place like the open air to preach the gospel. I went out there and I was preaching the gospel in the open air. This drunken man comes over. You know, God used the presence of God. God used that man.
Oh yeah.
And God began to do a work, and he said it was like he was saying, son, you can't do this, but I can. You see, sometimes we're so dependent upon self. To that place where we're at the rope. You know, in order to get saved, you got to be at the end of your rope. You got to get to that place where you know.
That's what I was telling that Mormon man. That you talked to the other night. I told him about when I was. I use this a lot when I don't know anybody, and I was with my grandmother at the post office. I was like 3. My awesome. I named my daughter after her, and at the post office, and I let go. I look around. I grab her hand again. I look up, and it's this man I've never seen before in my life. It scared me half to death. I started looking around. My grandmother had moved up in line. She was standing there, so I ran up to my grandma, grabbed her hand, scared to death, didn't let go. And but I was lost until I didn't realize I couldn't be found until I realized it was lost. And it's the same way in salvation. Until you come to the realization that you are lost, dying, and going to hell, like, you can't get saved.
You know, Jesus said, and we're going to have to wrap things up here in a bit. He said, whosoever will come after me, deny himself. Take me. You can't get saved unless you come to the end of the world. Okay? Unless you know that you're lost and you cannot save yourself.
Yeah.
God is gracious and kind.
Yes.
If somebody realizing you cannot save yourself, he'll save you today just by believing in what Jesus Christ did on the cross.
Lay down your sin, put the cross and follow.
We're going to head out, but I want you to do something. I want you to like, share, and subscribe. To know that we love you today. We're going to be talking about this topic, being steadfast, always not working, Lord, for about 4 weeks now.
We're going to be doing a few other things too.
If you have any questions, let us know.
Try to answer them next week. I was just going to share with them real quick. I'll be adding a few other things to our channel. I have that I was doing it, and I'm going to be putting on this channel and changing the name. Variety blog, if you want to check it out. I'm going to change the name to like Mom's Corner or something. If you have any good ideas, send them in. I'd love to hear some. And my husband's preaching. We'll be putting my husband's preaching the other side of Stephanie, our main parents, and great. Love y'all.